What do you want to talk about first, my dear?
I think since we're already just giving it to CBC right now, maybe we should talk about one of our fun or more fun exclusive access to information investigation. And again, you'll probably only hear about this from us. You'll never hear about it from the CBC because you're normal. And so you don't watch the CBC because nobody watches the CBC. CBC is watched by only 3% of Canadians, but funded by 100% of us. I think it's fewer than 330,000 people watch their flagship 6 o'clock news. So that's like the big money news hour. Of 38 million people in the country, fewer than 330,000 people watch it. And they canceled, you may not know this at home, viewers and friends, they canceled the local news broadcast, however, only the English language local news broadcast during the pandemic for safety purposes. Apparently, the coronavirus cannot be contracted by French language journalists. Who knew? But anyway, they canceled it. You might not have noticed because you are severely normal, and so you don't watch CBC News. But did you know, friends, back in 2015, CBC created an emoji keyboard just for themselves. And it was really something else. It had, as you can see there, I think that's Murdoch Mysteries. That's Detective Murdoch. That's Rick Mercer, I think. Marg Delahunty, that's the a comedy terrorist, I would call her, that terrorized Rob Ford on his driveway when he was taking his kids to school. And if you remove the laugh track from that, it is cringe. And on the end there, David Suzuki. There was an emoji keyboard so that you could respond to your friends' messages with, I don't know, David Suzuki, I guess. But we filed an access to information request because we wanted to know, did anybody even download this keyboard? Because at the time, CBC pushed it really hard. But again, it was CBC, so nobody was watching, nobody cared. But we tried our best to find out how much it cost to hire designers to create these things. But what we got back was completely redacted. So what we do know is that CBC created this keyboard that obviously nobody downloaded, nobody knew anything about. And then when we tried to figure out how many tax dollars they wasted on this insane vanity project for themselves, they redacted everything. We asked them to provide copies. Sheila, sorry, go ahead.
If I can ask you, please, what were the reasons for the redactions? And I say this because it's not like we're going after a private company. It's the same kind of crap I went through in trying to find out how much the LCBO loses to theft. And they even, they didn't redact anything. They refused our FOI. We only got that information when we appealed it. The point is, whether it's the LCBO, a crown corporation owned by the government of Ontario, or the CBC, which is funded by taxpayers from coast to coast, we are the stakeholders. We are the shareholders. What were the reasons for not sharing this information when we are the ones funding this entity?
I'm going to suspect that it was because the contracted companies didn't want to divulge the nature of the contract.
Irrelevant.
So we've had, you're telling me, but it happens all the time. Invoices dated July 2nd, 2015 and November 30th, 2015 split the total cost of CBC's fees to Emperella Productions over 2 payments, but both payments were redacted. A third invoice dated July 12th, 2016, so almost a year later of nobody using this keyboard, to digital production house York Attack for CBC emojis, 8 new. So even after nobody was using these emojis, they were still adding new ones and revising them and updating them, but they redacted it. And a fourth invoice to Emperella Productions dated February 22nd, so 18 months after nobody using these things, 18 new emojis and revisions, and everything was redacted. Rosie Barton was the only CBC journalist to be given an emoji. if you can believe that. I wonder if her emoji was her taking that selfie with Justin Trudeau, because that would be fitting. And for,
you know what, Sheila?
Sorry, go ahead.
You know what kills me about this? You can tell it's almost like paralysis by analysis for this dozen or so emojis. Obviously, so much money went into this, so much effort and time. Look at all that paperwork. And let me tell you, folks, and you know this full well, Sheila, we have a guy here at Rebel, Mike. He does the thumbnails for all our videos. He can whip up, artwork for a T-shirt in a few hours. Professional, top quality, excellent stuff. He's on staff. He can do this work within hours, within minutes if need be. What the hell is this? Going out to these outside companies to basically give thousands, maybe tens of thousands, to come up with little doodles of CBC personalities. This is staggering. What a waste of our money, Sheila.
Well, and not only that, I'm guessing, and I think it's safe money if I were to bet on it, that the only people who ever downloaded this emoji keyboard were CBC employees themselves, just based on the things that they were suggesting. Our article on it says, while most of the emojis appear to have been approved quickly by the CBC, a revision was requested to make the mouth of the character Amy on Heartland smaller. Who cares? How much did that cost? Let's keep going. Most of the emojis appear to be CBC characters or personalities from shows including 22 Minutes and old shows such as The Beachcombers. I don't know anybody who uses emojis who even knows who the Beachcombers are outside of me and maybe you. And you've only ever sent me one emoji, and it was a bee, because you said bee thanking you. I remember that very distinctly. Now, this is how I know this is internal CBC BS vanity garbage that Canadian taxpayers paid an enormous amount for. Former CBC CEO Hubert Lacroix was also included.
What?
With the request to put him in a suit with glasses, as well as former CBC Vice President Heather Conway to be depicted with a shirt, blazer, and glasses. You know what these were? These were emojis for their Slack channel that everybody else paid for, so that they could send each other stupid emojis of each other. But this is the dumbest thing.
Sheila,
but it's perfectly easy.
Look at the hubris there. Look at the chutzpah. These are executives. These aren't personalities. These are behind-the-scenes people. Nobody knows who they are, what they look like. You could put a jack-o'-lantern there to represent them. You know, I just wish there was some, ne'er-do-well that snuck in an emoji of, say, Jan Gomeshi. That's an emoji I'd like to see. I wouldn't mind kicking in a few bucks for that one.
Yeah. How about a woman with a black eye, courtesy of Jan Gomeshi? While we're getting down to the brass tacks here. By the way, Mike, graphics guy, if you're watching, I'll slip you $5 if you make me an emoji of Ezra Levant doing something funny.
I'll slip you a 10.
Just to prove that this can be done way cheaper than whatever CBC paid for it, because we won't know. And we should file an appeal on this, because if they are blocking this, it's ridiculous. That's usually how it works. It's really bad when they start redacting dollar amounts like this. And we file at Rebel News hundreds of access to information requests all day, every day, couple a day, all year long. It's just, we're the only ones asking these questions. And we try to ask questions that, the government does a lot of things in the dark, and we try to be the flashlight here. But they are time consuming. They're expensive. We have a researcher who helps us with these things. He does a peripheral skim through things for us, and he helps file the paperwork, because it's so much. And if people want to help us do these sorts of exclusive access to information investigations, you can donate at rebelinvestigates.com, because asking the questions it's not cheap, but we think it's worth it.
And you know something, Sheila? The CBC emoji thing. I mean, imagine going to war over this, of all things, for the CBC. Unbelievable. But it's almost like the Justin Trudeau Liberals and how they're dealing with the We scandal, isn't it? The more you redact, the more you cancel committees, the more you prorogue Parliament, the more you say no, no, no to a corruption committee, the more I think, without even a scintilla of evidence, more than what's been reported, that you are guilty, and we're only touching the absolute tip of the iceberg of this scandal. I might be wrong, but the more you try to be non-transparent and shut things down and cancel committees, the more I think you are as guilty as sin.
Well, with these exclusive access to information investigations, there are always two key indicators about whether the information within is damning. Heavy redactions, which was in the case of this one, or they give me an expensive bill up front before they give me the documents. Yep. These are all digital documents. You can find them and send them to me in a PDF. It doesn't cost a lot of money. They're sitting in a database. You're searching by keyword. Just send it to me. It costs basically nothing. The expense should come on our end on man hours. But when they stick me with hundreds, and in the case of the Alberta government under Rachel Notley, a couple approaching $4,000 for some document packages, that's how I know they're really bad. And my theory holds true. I think it was almost $4,000 to get access to the water bomber contracts.
Oh, yes.
That were canceled before the Fort McMurray fire, where Notley had cuts to agriculture and forestry, the only thing she cut. So they had to rewrite all the water bomber contracts, cancel them just a few days before. And a lot of the water bombers, they've got bills to pay. So they took contracts in BC, and it left fire services in Alberta scrambling. That cost almost $4,000 to get those documents. And then, a lot of time and money to go through them all. But anyways, if people want to help, that was a long story. But if people want to help, they can do that at rebelinvestigates.com.
That's an excerpt from my daily TV show that I do live at 12 noon Eastern time. We talk about the news of the day, we play interesting viral videos, and most importantly, I take your questions that you chat to me through YouTube Super Chat. I think that's the funnest part of it. So tune in every weekday at 12 noon Eastern time, only here at rebelnews.com.